What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Cinema Royale. I'm John. That's Travis Hobson. We're the Punch Drunk Critics. Before we get started, I just wanted to throw a thanks out to everybody that's liked and subscribed to the channel, that's been checking out the recent interviews and everything we have up. We really appreciate every single one of you guys. And if you haven't, make sure to like and subscribe below. We'll be coming with all kinds of interviews and fun stuff in the coming weeks, so don't miss out. Make sure you join up.
Yeah.
And the site you can check out every single day is punchdrunkcritics.com. That's where we have all our daily news updates. If you're in the DC metro area, we have screenings that we give away. If you're not, we have other stuff that we give away from time to time, so make sure to jump in and check us out.
Yep, a lot of response to the last few interviews that have gone up on the YouTube channel. So yeah, thanks to everybody who has subscribed based on those, and we'll try to provide you more of those in the very near future. I got an interview with Maggie Q coming up.
Ooh, yeah, that movie looks good too.
Guess for the protege, and guess what? It's in person.
Really? I didn't think we were ever going to get those again.
I know, me neither. Yeah, she's going to be in DC.
That's nerve-wracking. I mean,
Yeah.
she's. I even loved her in Balls of Fury. If you can believe that.
She's the type of hot that it's hard to look at her directly.
Well, she's the type of hot that it's easy to imagine her as like an assassin that would kick your ass.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she played La Femme Nikita for years.
Yeah.
TV show.
She was the only TV version of that, right?
TV show version of the Luc Besson movie, La Femme Nikita.
Wasn't somebody else, like, not a Loosely Lawless, but somebody that, it was a white chick. It was around that same time of those TV shows that you'd see on, like, Channel 6 in the middle of a Saturday.
You're probably thinking of Peter Wilson.
Yes. Wasn't she La Femme Nikita too?
Something like that. I can't think what it was, though.
Hmm.
But yeah, you're on the right path, I think.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So that should be awesome.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait for that. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah. I gotta be honest. Balls of Fury, fun movie to watch. It's completely stupid. Not of any cinematic quality.
I don't know if I've seen it since the year it came out. I can't say.
I mean, that's like one of my little pigeonholes that I get in is a just really stupid, but still funny movie. And Homeboy.
Around the same time as Dodgeball.
No, it was a couple years. Well, it may have been because now I'm thinking about it, but I know it was
a whole like series of like dumb sort of sports related movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they come out around the same time. I feel like there was a
Basketball from the South Park guys started the whole thing way back in like 2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so this week's show, we're talking about a movie that I don't think is bad at all, which is the Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
James Gunn's take on the DC Universe villains, expendable villains. I love the comic. Suicide Squad is one of the few DC comics I used to read a lot of. I was never a huge DC guy, but I read the Suicide Squad because I just love the concept.
Mm-hmm.
Sports into this sort of thing. So I love the Expendables and stuff like the Dirty Dozen and things like that. And James Gunn has called this movie his Dirty Dozen. And I think if you go and watch it, you can actually see that. We're also going to we need to talk about its box office too, because the box office numbers came out for the Suicide Squad and they're not great. And we need to talk about how this. I think we need to talk a little bit about the decision that Warner Brothers made this year,
Mm-hmm.
and what this could bode for the future. Because I think this could have some impact on Dune coming up as well. So we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about what other movies that we were going to talk about this week.
Jungle Cruise from last week. We'll talk about that for a quick second. Adam Driver using his voice to the creepiest extent, but in Annette, and that's pretty. A couple other things came out that we'd touch on.
Yeah, and of course a bunch of news as well. A little bit about Henry Cavil, Superman,
Mm-hmm.
the Turtles movie, and so forth and so forth. We'll hopefully get around to all that, and if we don't babble too much and talk about stuff like Maggie Q, and as long as we don't get off on tangents like that, we should be fine. Anyway, so let's talk about the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, man.
I absolutely love this film, and look, I'm a fan of the 2016 movie, and I know not a lot of people were. I think about 75% of it is really good, and then there's like 25% of it that is absolute garbage. We know the backstory about what happened to David Ayer's cut of the movie. In fact, one of the producers on that movie was talking about it again this week. I was going to post about it, but I'm just kind of depressed of posting about that damn movie at this Um, studio got involved. There's all sorts of conflict over creative and the tone. Studio wanted something more akin to Deadpool or Guardians of the Galaxy.
Something like they got
which,
this time around.
which makes it ridiculous that they would hire somebody like David Ayer, who did Harsh Times and Street Kings.
Yeah.
So
he delivered the movie you'd think he would.
That movie. So what did Warner Brothers do? They went out and they actually got the guy who made Guardians of the Galaxy. They got James Gunn. And this is like the ultimate James Gunn movie. Like if you're I put it as simply as as this to a friend of mine who asked about it. If you like James Gunn, you'll like the Suicide Squad. Like period. I don't think there's any in the like middle ground for that. If you like James Gunn, you're gonna like this movie because it has all of his tropes, his tricks, everything that you like about his films. Whether it's Slither, because there's Starro is very similar to some of the monsters in Slither. At least I think so.
Yeah.
Super and things like that. If you like the tone of that movie, you're gonna like the tone of the Suicide Squad. And this one is not a sequel. I know people try to call it a sequel. It's not. It doesn't carry over storylines or anything, but it does carry over a couple characters. Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, Joel Kinnaman's Rick Flag, low-key one of my favorite characters in both movies. Viola Davis's Amanda Waller, still as brutal as ever.
Yeah.
And Jay Courtney's Boomerang. Yeah, he's in this too.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, all you got to remember about James Gunn is that the guy got his start at Troma Films, and you can. Right. This is like what would happen if a really, really good Troma filmmaker was given a ton of money and a good, Toxic Avenger storyline. So it's exactly what you'd think.
Bring over the style from those films and tailor it to a wider audience.
Yeah.
And now, to be fair, like not all of his movies have been gigantic hits. Like, in fact, really, none of them were gigantic hits until he started making Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
He was always notable for being a stylish filmmaker. His movies always got attention, even the ones that weren't huge. Like Super got a lot of attention for being a weird R-rated superhero movie. Slither got attention for being a weird offbeat horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
So his movies got attention if they weren't like huge. Suicide Squad is like everything you like about James Gunn mixed into one. And what I really dig about it is that it's really focused in its storytelling. Like I like that it all takes place on this one island. I dig the opening sequence. Where look, everybody knows most of this team ain't getting out of there alive. We know, and everybody knows most of them don't survive the first 10, 15 minutes. Everybody knows that. So I'm not spoiling anything by telling you that. A lot of people die in the first few minutes, including one or two surprises. But I think this movie is just so much goddamn fun. And even though the Bloodsport character played by Idris Elba was clearly written to be Deadshot, Will Smith's Deadshot at first. I think that's clear.
Oh yeah, yeah.
By this, the character is too similar. Even the storyline with his daughter, played by Storm Reed, could have been fit into the Deadshot character. Probably would have been.
It's basically the exact same character. I mean, there's very few differences, but
same exact character.
Yeah.
But I fell in love with almost everybody in this film. Deadshot included, Peacemaker, even though he's a total piece of trash. And man, I am such a rat picture fan now.
There's a scene where
Daniela Melchior plays Ratcatcher too.
Yeah.
With Taika Waititi cameoing as her father. It's really great.
Yeah.
I think she's amazing. King Shark. I want a King Shark toy right now. I'm probably. I think I have a King Shark pump going away anyway. Yeah, man, I absolutely love this film. Top to bottom.
I mean, talk about Peacemaker, who we're getting a spin-off film in a couple months, or spin-off show a couple months on HBO Max. But there's complex humor, gross out humor, and then there's very simple, stupid humor. And I love every single piece that he hits. There's a scene when they're in the woods basically camping out and something disturbs the whole team. And here comes John Cena as Peacemaker in his whitey tighties. And he's just standing there for like 10 minutes. And every time it cut back to him with his teeny tiny whitey tighties, I was cracking up.
The wrestlers, like the WWE guys, like the top three, Johnson, Batista, and Cena,
mm-hmm.
they get on this extra super duper protein plan like right before every movie.
Yeah.
Like, they get gigantic.
yeah.
That's how big he is. He is huge because he's back in WWE right now. Like
Oh,
he's
is he?
back.
Okay.
Yeah, he's back. And he's actually got a match coming up with Roman Reigns, Dwayne Johnson's cousin. So
Is
he's
he really? I didn't know that.
Roman Reigns' family.
Oh,
They're
damn.
all part of the Anoa'i family.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so he's got a match, and he does not look nearly as huge as he does as Peacemaker. It's crazy how these wrestlers do that. Johnson does it too, and right before a movie gets just crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think
And
you can probably either maintain it, number one, being that big is probably lessening flexibility, and you're probably putting yourself at risk of injury to compete in that. It's easier to look at than to see, but maintaining it, I mean, oh God, The Rock eats like 10,000 calories a day, like just chicken breasts by the hand. I mean, it's ridiculous.
yeah, it's nuts the way these guys,
Yeah.
how they do that to their bodies. It's like the opposite of what like guys like Ed Norton used to do, like where they would like drop 100 pounds.
Yeah, the Christian Bale machinist diet, right?
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
back on and get back to normal. These guys, man, they just bulk up to a crazy degree, and then they never get small. They just get smaller. Like
Yeah.
These guys don't get small.
I mean,
they get smaller.
Obviously this is ensemble movies, but I don't think I remember a time where every member of the ensemble had their moment and was just as good. I mean, there's the primary ensemble, which you've seen, which is Bloodsport, Peacemaker, Ratcatcher, King Shark, Polka Dot Man, and Harley. I don't think I'm missing anybody.
Harley Quinn gets her own like a whole section all to herself, which is
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna spoil too much about what happens in it, but she basically has kind of a mini relationship over the span of like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah. And I thought that was a smart way to do it too, because obviously everybody would think, oh, Harley's going to be the main character or whatever, and they both did and didn't make her the main character. They gave her own storyline so she could stand out by herself, but also she's not the main character. It's not the main storyline.
Absolutely not. I don't know if I'd say there's anyone in particular who's the main character other than maybe Deadshot. But even then, I wouldn't say that. I think they're all just part of the group.
Right.
But it's her own little thing, and I think it's arguably the best Harley Quinn sequence of any of the films we've seen her in, whether that's Birds of Prey
Mm-hmm.
or the original Suicide Squad. I think it's fantastic the way it builds off of what we saw happen to her in Birds of Prey, where she forges this relationship with a child, kind of turns good, but not quite. There's a one line that links the two movies in the movie, like just one line. It kind of, if you blink and you'll miss it. But the transformation she underwent in that movie isn't forgotten. It's paid off in something that she does to the man she falls in love with. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great little moments like that. David Dastmalchian's Polka Dot Man gets his moment in the sun. His thing is very weird. And
Yes.
I don't necessarily mean his powers, but I mean like his psychological issues are weird.
Say the least.
King Shark is hilarious. He's kind of like the Groot of the movie. And like I said, Ratcatcher made me really.
She's the heart. Without a doubt, the heart of the movie.
Yeah, she's definitely the heart of the movie. She made me feel something for a character that is really like F level in like DC Comics. I mean,
And she's the one who turns them into a team, really. She's the one that's, the linchpin at bringing everybody together and, making them feel something for each other more than let's do this so we don't get our heads blown off. And, just her extremely naive but sweet take on everything.
Yeah, she's also kind of a symbol because most of those guys are there for doing really bad stuff. She's not, though. She's there for something petty. And she comes from a loving, if downtrodden family life. She's not a really horrible person,
right?
And yet she still finds herself in this terrible situation where she is basically just an expendable piece for Amanda Waller,
right?
Kind of a symbol. She's an important symbol too. She has a really great relationship with Deadshot, and I want to see a spin-off of those two really bad. Just as much as I want to see like an origin story of like Rick Flag and Deadshot's early adventures, like in the military or something. Like I want to see that. Like there's a lot of things I would like to see coming out of this movie. That's how much I dig it. And
yeah.
I'm so mad that it did so badly at the box office.
But So, all right. So obviously, we both really liked the Suicide Squad, and the Jungle Cruise, which came out last week, also didn't do great. I'm surprised they're not ready, and maybe they are. I mean, number one, we have the variable of whether or not or what the home viewing is worth in box office dollar amounts. But then you've got Black Widow, which came out and did great, and then everything else after that kind of did less and less. And Fast 9 did great too. So you had 2 weeks where everybody was coming back to the theater.
Black Widow didn't really do great.
Well, I mean, for coming out of COVID, getting everybody back in the theaters compared to last year or two.
And so
But
you think about the fact that F9 has more than doubled it worldwide.
yeah, well, the worldwide part is where it's at. I mean, they've proved that the fast movies just dominate worldwide. But now we have the Delta variant coming up. We have people that already got their theater fix, and then they're given a choice between watching at home and going to the theater. I mean, it's really no surprise at all that what did this get? 29 million this weekend?
26.5 million, 72 million worldwide. Not great numbers. Look, Warner Brothers made a mistake, I think, when they made this decision to release things in theaters and HBO Max.
Mm-hmm.
You can argue about things like Godzilla vs. Kong, which did okay. I guarantee you it would have done almost double that if it had been solely in theaters and released at a time when people were, maybe if they had pushed it back a little bit further. I hate to keep saying that because everything's been pushed so far already, but it's affecting. They should have done this per situation, not blanket, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Because it's not. I mean, we forget about movies like The Little Things, which came out also, and didn't do anything, or Those Who Wish Me Dead with Angelina Jolie, which came out and didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
This policy has hurt those movies too, not just these big ones that we're talking about because they get the most attention, but it's hurt a lot of Warner Brothers movies this year, and it has the potential to hurt Dune, which comes out in just a few months, a movie that I think is already it's already dubious whether or not it's going to do anything because Dune is a very specific niche property. You either love those Frank Herbert books or you don't. I don't. Under normal circumstances, I would not pay to see Dune if it didn't have every goddamn star on the planet in it and it was directed by Denis Villeneuve. I wouldn't go see Dune if you paid me. I don't want to see it. But with that cast, of course I'll go see it. But then again, most people aren't like me. They're just going to see that and they're going to know that it's Dune, know they didn't like the book in the 80s, the movies in the 80s, never read the book in the 80s either. Mm-hmm. They're not gonna see it. And I compare it to something like Blade Runner 2049, which is another Villeneuve movie, which is also a very specific niche property. And yeah, it did okay, but it didn't do. I don't think it made its budget back.
Right.
And I don't see how Dune could possibly do better than that. I don't think it could.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing we don't know about all this stuff is, when we say it's going to hurt it, that goes by the old rules, assuming they aren't adjusting how they're looking at these things. Like, obviously, with an opening like this, we wouldn't expect there to be another Suicide Squad movie. But, the variable of subscriptions or however they're doing the streaming thing, whether it would have done better if it would have got 10 million more not going to streaming, but if this ends up being better for it really depends on how the industry treats the movies that were released during this time and but all the metrics for that are kept secret, so it's really kind of hard to see.
This really should have been an idea that they came up with for lower budgeted to mid-level budgeted movies, because those have done okay.
Yeah,
those have done fine. Movies like Raya and The Last Dragon and so forth have done well.
Right.
Family friendly movies, which do okay because families will go see it in the theaters if they feel comfortable, and they make their money back at home even better. So I don't know. It just seemed like it was a really poor decision done out of hastiness and probably a little, probably just straight up uncertainty because nobody's dealt with this kind of situation before.
Yeah. And even at this point, it's not, we're a year and a half into it almost, and it's not like they've found out what the formula is. Everybody's still kind of just guessing.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty nuts. And obviously, it's not just Warner Brothers that's going through this. Disney is going through it as well. Mm-hmm. Everybody's trying to just figure it out. And honestly, I hate to say it, it seems like we're going to be living in a permanent pandemic state here. So, I mean, I don't know I don't know how if things will ever get back to normal the way they used to be. I don't know if that's going to be the case. Um,
Yeah.
They're already talking about the Lambda variant, which could be resistant to vaccines. So,
Yeah, I mean, as long as we keep playing games with it, it's going to keep bouncing around and getting worse. But you know, uh, they're gonna have to figure something out. And I mean, it'll be interesting long term to see if how they treat the movies that were released during this time. Like, but I think another big problem with it is that maybe at least I didn't foresee is kind of the effect that a theatrical release versus home release has on your brain. Like, if for some reason these movies that are coming out HBO Max and like even something like the Snyder Cut, as big as that was, it almost disappears from your brain right after it's out. You know, there's a different marketing strategy. Like, it seems like things that are in the theaters are more all over the place, and they really have a more staying power in your mind. Whereas a lot of the stuff that's released on HBO Max, like, it's done. I mean, there's something with the ability to just turn it on whenever that makes it not as special. You know, like if I want to watch this again, and right now I could just go watch it on HBO Max, but if it was in theaters only, I'd have to go out and see it again.
how many TV movies do you sit around and think about all that often?
None, but you know, I would have thought before that was because of quality. Well, I would have thought before this because they aren't the same caliber of film, but now we know that they can be, and that's not the deal. It's just because it comes out on TV. Something about that, you know, is different.
No, it's not that. It's the experience. Going to the theater is always an experience.
Right.
Um, for whatever the reason, you always remember that the way can never remember something on TV that you just saw on TV. And that's the problem. Netflix dealt with this very early on. Where I remember I used to joke that all the movies fell down the memory hole.
Mm-hmm.
Still true to some degree. There aren't a lot of movies that come out strictly on Netflix that I think about all that often.
Yeah.
Roma is one, but Roma I saw in a theater first.
And Roma also had the benefit of an extreme blitz because of the Oscars. You were hearing about it for a long time. So, I mean, but stuff like Extraction, as much as I liked Extraction, as awesome as that movie was, if I'm like, oh, what was some of the best action movies of the last few years, that would pop up. Even Tomorrow War, which I absolutely adored, it's not going to pop up in my mind unless I go looking for it, just for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's tough, and I don't know what can be done to change that. Honestly, I don't know if anything can.
Yeah.
I don't know. We both love the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
It made, like I said, $26.5 million domestic this week, $72 million worldwide. Not a great start. And ironically, and by the way, that's like almost $100 million less than like Suicide Squad like 5 years ago. Which is the Oscar-winning Suicide Squad. I always got to remember to put that in front of it for people who hate that movie. But also, in an ironic twist, it also got like the exact same cinema score as the 2016 Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey. So people who saw them were like, oh yeah, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Even though they're not.
Yeah.
Birds of Prey and the Suicide Squad are far superior movies to Suicide Squad.
Yeah, there's so many twists and turns in this one too. Stuff that, you know, in today's world where everything is spoiled in a trailer, it was really nice to walk into this and, you know, even the things that you knew were going to happening in a different way or being delivered a certain way. I mean, I loved it.
Yeah, me too. Especially the big kaiju battle at the end. I thought was really well done.
Yeah.
Those things tend to blur together. Most superhero movies end with some giant battle against some generic bad guy at the end of the movie, and they tend to be bland. DCU movies are, I think, even worse at it than Marvel.
Oh yeah.
Their villains always have some awful big bad fight at the end of the movie. It's usually terrible.
I mean, you could line this up beat for beat with Batman vs Superman.
But I thought this one was really fun the way they did it with Starro out there, everybody getting their moment. It really did kind of feel like a Japanese kaiju.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. I mean it definitely had a Pacific Rim feel to it and all that stuff.
I laughed every time they cut back to Waller and her team.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to anything in Peacemaker. It's seeing more of them.
Yeah.
Seeing more of them working outside of a Waller a little bit. It's going to be funny. So.
Yeah. That was her. She was probably the villain of the film. You know, obviously not the big bad, but
both movies in a sense.
Yeah.
But she's even nastier in this than she was in the first movie.
Yeah, she's just completely ruthless, and
Yeah.
by extension, Amanda Waller and the United States government are probably right up there as two of the biggest villains of the movie. So that was different.
There's a little
And
bit of politics in here.
yeah, there's politics, and then you have like Peacemaker.
You know.
You know,
Yeah. So yeah, a little bit of politics. Not a ton, but a little bit.
yeah, for sure. Jungle Cruise, which came out last week and didn't do well at the box office either. I thought it was, I thought it was fine. It wasn't.
Enough. I think that's a good enough review. All right.
Yeah, it wasn't Pirates of the Caribbean where it's not that level of memorable, but for a movie that stars Dwayne Johnson, who you expect to deliver something memorable every time, it was just a standard adventure movie with, had its moments. I think that's all we got to say about it.
I think your review says a lot about what Jungle Cruise turned out to be.
Yeah.
Because you didn't really have anything to say about it.
I mean, there were no standout action sequences. I mean, there were good action sequences, but they were all, pretty standard.
The best thing about Jungle Cruise is Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt, as we kind of knew it would be.
Oh yeah,
they're absolutely great together. They're a lot of fun, but it is very generic action comedy. Very generic Disney action comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more fun than Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I never had. I think this is like straight up and down more enjoyable than those. But the heavy CGI backgrounds, because they're traveling through the jungle and all this kind of stuff, it's mostly CGI. A lot of it. It just doesn't leave much of an impression. It almost feels like Dwayne Johnson's Jumanji movies, but I think those have a little bit more personality.
Yeah, I would definitely. I mean, and plus when you have, Jack Black and Kevin Hart in there, elevating it even further. Emily Blunt's great, but she doesn't really up the fun quotient. She's not somebody I see as fun.
I don't know. She's pretty fun in this. I actually see her as fun. I think she's pretty fun. It's just that it's not like a big ensemble of fun characters. It's just
right.
It's mainly those two. And her brother, played by Jack Whitehall, who's okay. There's a big moment in there where he comes out as gay, and people are making a big deal about that as the first openly gay character in a major Disney film. And I guess that's a notable moment. The movie brushes it aside like it doesn't really matter that much. So why should we take it that seriously? That's why I look at it. If the movie didn't make a big deal about it, why am I? But it's there. It's a moment, and I think that's great. It's fine. I guess I don't know if there'll be sequels to this or not based on what it's done. I don't know what Disney is gauging this on.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they've been taking a couple hits over the last few years, and every time they shoot their shot with one of these movies, if it doesn't really go out the park, they just abandon it, and they're like, well, what else do we have in the park that we can make into a movie? Instead of watching, or after you watch Jungle Cruise, there's a great series on Disney Plus right now, Inside the Attraction, where it's like a 45-minute documentary feature on a bunch of different things in the park. If you're a big Disney World fan like I am, it's a lot of fun to watch. Very interesting too.
They'll just find another way to make money off it. They'll keep monetizing it and merchandising it and turn one of their they'll turn the Jungle Cruise attraction into the movie version of Jungle Cruise. Yeah. If they haven't done it already, I'm sure they probably are.
Oh yeah, I mean that was probably art. Actually, you know what? I know they did because they sped up the updating of it because there were shocker. It hadn't been updated in 40 years, so shocker. There were some kind of racist things going on in there and some problematic things going on in the ride. So. What? Would you believe it? I almost didn't believe it. Disney always is on the right side of those things. Yeah. Everybody knows Walt Disney was a man that loved all people.
Right.
Prime Video has been putting out quite a few. I mean, this year it seems to be their most productive year as far as big name or quality movies. And Annette is a movie starring Adam Driver. It's very weird. It's very weird. I don't know if it meant to be or it was just him, but he was very weird. He plays a guy named Henry, who's a stand-up, like a comedian, and he meets a opera singer in Marion Cotillard. There's a love story there. Um, it's just there's some movies to me that feel like they're weird for the sake of being weird, and that's what I got from this. And like Adam Driver was over the top. He almost seemed like if David Copperfield wanted to be a magician whenever he was near a stage. It's kind of overly melodramatic at times. But I will say, even through all that, I watched the whole movie. I didn't think to stop it at any point. It was kind of enjoyable for some reason. I'm guessing because it's got Marion Cotillard, your review is going to be better than mine. But it was just very long and weird.
I love Marion Cotillard, but no, I did not like this movie at all. I didn't give it a good review either. No, it's directed by Leos Carax, who did Holy Motors a few years ago. So if you know that film, then you probably expect this one's going to be weird. The story was created by the group Sparks, who did all the music in this. And of course, they're red hot right now because of that Edgar Wright documentary, The Sparks Brothers, about them. So people are, really excited for Sparks again. I don't know why. I never did like them. I still don't, based off this. Yeah, it is definitely a weird movie, and I couldn't figure out why it was weird, which I think is the thing that was bugging me about it. The thing is, it gets off to a really great start too, and I was super excited. I like musicals. This is a musical. I mean, I like certain kinds of musicals. This is the kind of musical I would like. It's very much, in some ways, in the Heights vein. You like that style of musical. It gets off to this great start with this song called "So May We Start," where you see the entire cast singing together. Sparks is in there as well. And they're just kind of walking through the streets of, I believe it was L.A. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was.
Singing this really peppy, upbeat song, gets you excited, and then it tumbles into the story, and I was like, fuck. Um, they play this mismatched couple. He's this angry shock comedian, who his whole act is basically he goes out there and he belittles his audience and is angry, complains, and he has this sort of, if there's something I would say about Adam Driver, he always has this certain like intensity to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he uses that, and he as this character he kind of dials it up a little bit. So he's kind of scary when he's on there on stage, and he even at one point he even fakes like a violent act, and everybody's shocked. They think it's real.
Yeah.
So he does that, and then he meets his partner is this renowned opera singer. They seem like they shouldn't be a couple at all. They don't make any sense. Then they have a child, and then other weird shit happens. I'm not spoiling anything by saying that the child is played by a puppet the entire movie, and I did not understand why. I didn't. And the thing is, I didn't really care enough to think about why they made that choice. I think that's the bigger problem. I just didn't find any of the characters very interesting. I think their characters were very thinly drawn. They're archetypes, is what they are. They're just archetypes. But there was nothing about them. I didn't understand why they were together as a couple. That never made sense. If you can't get beyond the fact that they don't make sense as a couple, you're not going to get into the movie or give a shit about the things that he does in particular. Because this movie's really about him. This is the Adam Driver movie, not necessarily a Marion Cotillard movie. It's not Rusted Bone or anything like that. That's what you're looking for. She doesn't get those kinds of moments in this movie. But I didn't care about the things that he did because I didn't care about them as a couple. It is broadly theatrical. I think that's on purpose because they're trying to create a stagey kind of like tragedy. I think that's the point about fame and parenthood and how celebrity can corrupt you and change you. And there's a certain little bit in there about jealousy, especially jealousy of your own children who may be more talented than you. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there that they are teasing as themes, but I don't think they explore very, very well. And maybe that has to do with Sparks doing the story. Maybe it has to do with Carax himself. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is Annette didn't work for me, and I really wanted it to. So, yeah.
It didn't seem like the music, like the film was a vehicle for the music, or the music was a vehicle for the film, or was that?
Not a lot of memorable music, as far as I was
No. No,
concerned. That's what I would say about Sparks all along. Their music's not memorable. I don't care why. I don't understand why people like them.
What's their big claim to fame? Because they don't even that doesn't even ring a bell other than this movie.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you like a main song of theirs that people love.
I don't
They were
think.
just one of those offbeat groups from Jesus 30, 40 years ago, maybe 30 years ago.
Oh yeah, so they're that old. Okay.
Edgar Wright made that documentary about them and showed, hey, they're still alive, you guys. You know, it's kind of one of
Yeah.
those people are like talking about Sparks again. So
Yeah. So that just about does it for Annette. You know who I am super excited to see in a movie is Blue Beetle. Uh, Always liked Blue Beetle. Then when oh shit, what's the new guy's name? The Latin kid that plays him now, or not plays him, but
is
his
the
secret
Wolfman?
identity. Huh?
Oh, the guy who, oh, the character Jamie
Yeah.
Ray.
There you go, Jamie Reyes. I just there's something. Blue Beetle is basically to me. He's got pieces of Iron Man. Pieces of a lot of different characters in him, and there was I guess
Ted Ford is a rich white guy with a
yeah. Ted Kord's a rich white guy, so he's been updated, obviously. But we got some casting news there, huh?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you the guy's name, so you might have it in front of you. I
Yeah.
don't watch Cobra Kai, so I don't know
Oh,
the guy.
heresy. Cobra Kai is so much fun. And we saw earlier this week, we posted a trailer on punchdrunkcritics.com for He's All That, the gender swap version of She's All That, the seminal, what's it called, teen comedy, I guess. And that starred, oh shit, no, I have neither of their names. One of the leads from Cobra Kai. And then now Blue Beetle is going to be starring the next one, who I really thought you'd have the name. So I'm pulling it up. But you got both of the male leads pulling big roles. Well, I guess it's kind of been about time because it's now the fourth season of Cobra Kai, and nobody on the show's really done anything else yet. So which that's always sits with me kind of weird.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just when I think about Cobra Kai, I only think about Ralph Macchio and the other guy. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you really get into the show, it's Zolo or Yolo Duena, who plays Miguel on Cobra Kai, is going to be playing Blue Beetle in an upcoming movie. And then the other guy I was thinking of was Tanner Buchanan, who plays Robbie Keane, is in He's All That. But yeah,
so yeah, the Blue Beetle movie. It's been they've been talking about it for a couple of years now, and I guess they're finally getting around to doing some stuff with it. It's got Angel Manuel Soto directing it, which I'm super excited about. This guy who did Charm City Kings.
mm-hmm.
He's directing it, and now we got the star. This is going to be another one of the DCEU films that's going to be mid-budgeted. It's going to be an HBO Max exclusive, sort of like Supergirl, the Batgirl movie that's coming up, and something else too that's coming up. So yeah, they're doing a bunch of those movies that are going to be smaller in scale, that are going to be direct to HBO Max, which I think is super smart. I think that's really smart to do stuff like that, especially right now where movies wasting these bigger movies aren't making as much.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's wise to start making movies that are costing less, so that you don't have to sit there and eyeball the box office every week, wondering if you're going to make your money back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like this move.
I mean, I just wonder what those films are going to look like. I mean, immediately when people say, less expensive movie, we're thinking less effects, less everything. But as we saw with the Marvel TV shows, which I would assume have a smaller budget, but I could be wrong there. They essentially are 4 movies worth of shows, though. And they look amazing. So it's possible to do. You can bring in all kinds of stuff like the void that they use on the Mandalorian to save costs. So I'm really interested to see if there's any noticeable difference, and that they're going for mid-level movies and not doing any kind of following Marvel's steps in the TV show thing.
Or maybe we're also seeing that they're using characters that don't necessarily demand like just as big level of effect. That
Yeah.
girl might not need much at all.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it can be practical. I imagine Blue Beetle will be the same way. So,
Yep.
it's smart. I mean, they're not going to make the Cyborg movie probably straight to HBO Max or something. Well, maybe they would. I don't know, but I doubt it. Not that there's ever going to be a cyborg movie, but or
Not
but
after all that bullshit,
if
you
Warner
know.
Brothers wanted to truly be dicks, they would go ahead and make a new cyborg movie with a different guy playing cyborg. They want to be assholes. That's what they would do.
Yeah,
He's talking of shit that they might want to go ahead and be petty and go
yeah.
ahead.
You know, and the only thing I would be disappointed about for this show is that it isn't Ted Cord. Is I always loved the Blue Beetle Booster Gold dynamic, and I don't know if Booster Gold is associated with the younger Blue Beetle. I think it was only Ted Cord.
I know in the comics they've met. I think they're associates or friends or whatever. But of course the Blue Beetle, Ted Cord and Booster Gold is what everybody remembers.
Yeah,
Look, just because this is Jamie Reyes has been cast as Blue Beetle doesn't mean that Ted Cord's not in the movie.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, in fact, if you look at something like Stargirl, the legacy of that character is all over the place.
Hmm.
So I would not be surprised if Ted Cord shows up in the movie as well in some fashion.
Yeah, I just hope it looks better. Like Stargirl is a good show. Don't get me wrong. It's extremely enjoyable. It's fun to watch, but it looks like I can't even say it looks like a CW show because CW shows look really good nowadays. It looks like a CW show from the 2000s, like early Smallville, more than a high level production in 2021. But speaking of the Justice League, they're without a leader, a contracted leader at least. Henry Cavill is not under contract at all for anything.
Supposedly, that's what the story goes from Humberto Gonzalez, who writes for the Wrap. He says that Henry Cavill's not under contract to appear in anything as Superman right now. Which if he's not under contract to appear as Superman, because he was teasing coming back maybe a year or so ago.
Yeah.
I think Henry Cavill is playing around with fans.
Yeah.
Like that. But yeah, he's supposedly not under contract, which doesn't mean that he won't be signed to do something. It doesn't mean that he's not even under contract to show up, or like if they wanted to like call an option or something that they couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that right now he's not signed to appear in anything. Not the Flash, like was rumored. Not anything.
Which is weird because if anything, you'd think he'd be in the Flash.
Or Shazam, Fury of the Gods, which he made that. They had that Superman tease at the end of the first movie. You'd think he'd show up in the sequel.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that's going to happen either. So unless they do
I'm still bitter for the way they teased that.
Unless they do another Superman cameo played by somebody else who's not Henry Cavill.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we don't know. We just don't know. But the thing is, I don't see any place for them to use Henry Cavill anyway, because they've got two separate Superman projects in the works with Black Superman.
Yeah.
So I mean,
but I think it's going to take a couple years for us to see what DC's game plan is, because behind all this other stuff, we've got the Batman with Robert Pattinson. Is that on the timeline with anything else? Are these two Black Superman movies on a timeline with anything else? I mean, it's just I think I'm pretty sure they understand the roads that they're laying down. I just don't think it's possible for us to see the whole map just yet. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know. They also got Supergirl, who's going to make her debut in the DCEU in The Flash. So
right.
I mean they got stuff with Kryptonians coming up. It just doesn't seem like Henry Cavill's in the cards.
Yeah.
I don't think he comes back for a while, not until there's going to be a new Justice League movie, if there is going to be a Justice League movie. And according to the producer, Charles Grodin, that could be years away. So.
Oh yeah, I think at least. I think they've got a lot of building to do until they get there. Other superhero stuff. Well, I guess I missed that piece of media, but 2012 saw one of the coolest superhero movies there was at the time, and that's Chronicle, which was a low budget, kind of not really handheld. It was Josh Trank's coming out film. I would say 3 teenagers that find superpowers from a meteor, and them discovering it, and it was just really cool the way it was done. It was, what I can't remember now. What it was actually found footage, wasn't it? Kind of.
It was a found footage movie about three teens who discovered something that gave them superpowers and sort of corrupts one of them. That movie was, like you said, it was Josh Trank's big debut film. It was also, fortunately, the breakout film for writer whatever the fuck his name is.
Oh,
The guy who's basically persona non grata now.
Max Landis, yeah.
Max Landis, yeah. Jonathan Landis' son, Max Landis. Piece of garbage, Max Landis.
Yeah, there's Landises. They always running into something.
Yeah, so between Trank and Landis, not everything that emerged out of Chronicle was great.
Michael B. Jordan.
Then again, you also had Michael B. Jordan and Dane DeHaan who came out of that too.
Mm-hmm.
So. And the movie was genuinely really good.
Yeah, it was.
There was a sequel for a while after that, but nothing ever came of it. Largely because Josh Trank kept blocking it. Josh Trank kept getting in the way.
Yeah.
Trying to do a sequel, but now it looks like they're moving forward with one. A producer came out and said that they're working on a sequel that will follow female college students who also discover something that gives them powers. And it'll take place 10 years after the first movie, so about 10 years. It's been about 10 years since that movie came out. So that's the plan right now. I'll be honest. The producer who's been talking about this movie has been talking about a lot of stuff lately.
Mm-hmm.
He talked about a Waterworld series that's coming up, and he also spilled a lot of details on Predator 5. Gave away the title and all that kind of stuff. So he's being really chatty about a lot of things. He's the guy who produced Jungle Cruise as well. So he's been everywhere doing interviews. And producers tend to talk because they don't always get asked questions.
Mm-hmm.
So when they get like a series of interviews like this, they tend to like drop a lot of stuff, and not all of it comes to beat.
Right.
I would not be surprised if there is no Chronicle 2 that comes out. I don't see the appeal after all these years. The movie was a huge hit. I think it made over $300 million worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know of any clamor for more Chronicle. Maybe there was a year or so after the movie came out, but after that, I don't think there's been any clamor for clamor to be turned into a franchise.
No, I mean,
I wouldn't believe this actually happens until I'm sitting in a theater watching it.
Yeah, I mean, the first movie was so impactful because it wasn't like anything you'd seen before. We had plenty of superhero movies, none that made it seem that grounded and realistic. But it's been so long since then, and this is really the type of movie that you'd have to capitalize on the buzz and have it come out a few years right after in order to do that. So yeah, especially given the context of it being a producer that was dropping a whole bunch of other stuff as well. It would be surprising, but it would be cool to say the least.
I think the Chronicle brand has been tarnished, unfortunately, by Trank and by Landis. Like, even though they'll have nothing to do with anything else that comes about with Chronicle,
Mm-hmm.
they would be a part of the sequel or whatever, or follow up, whatever you want to call it. I think the brand has long since been tarnished. I don't think anybody wants to see it.
Yeah, fair enough. But then there's another movie series that can't seem to get tarnished no matter what comes out. And you know what? I shouldn't even say that because I was a fan of the last two Ninja Turtles films. The Michael Bay produced. Now Colin Jost, famed SNL writer, and his brother. What was his brother's name? Casey Jost are writing a new live action Ninja Turtles movie.
I think so. I think it's going to be live action. The report doesn't necessarily state what it is, but since Seth Rogen is already doing an animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, it stands to reason that this one would be live action.
Yeah, why would they do two animated at the same time?
What we don't know is whether or not it's connected to the other two live action movies recently, because hard to believe it's been 5 years since Out of the Shadows. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I'm not even surprised by it anymore. People tell me something like, if you told me Chronicle was 10 years ago, I wouldn't have believed that.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, 5 years since Out of the Shadows. It feels like it was like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
the first one did really well,
mm-hmm.
And I don't even think the first one was very good. But the second one, Out of the Shadows, was far superior, and it did like half the box office. It's like $250 million worldwide. It did not do well.
Right.
Why it's been sitting around so long since then. So we don't know if they even want to continue with that or not. But I don't know. Yeah. So there's a new Ninja Turtles movie with Colin Jost writing it, and he's going to give himself one of the voices, right? I mean, he's going to give himself a turtle.
Oh yeah. I mean, you wouldn't not do that for that reason.
Matter which one. Which one would he be the best suited for? I think Michelangelo, but then again, I don't know.
Well, yeah, he's a comedian, So you think he's got to go Michelangelo, but I don't know. I'm just curious to see if there's anything new that they can touch on that hasn't been touched before. The only thing, the last movie they had the Technodrome actually kind of, and they've had pretty much everything else featured. The only thing I can think of is Yosagi Yojimbo and the Mousers. Those are the only two things that I can see. And you know what? I'm down with seeing a 6-foot white rabbit that's samurai. I'm cool with that.
I think they probably run into some rights issues with Yosagi Yojimbo because I don't think he's necessarily.
Oh, that's right. He's a separate license altogether, isn't he?
He wasn't a creation for Ninja Turtles, if I remember right.
Oh.
So, I don't know.
Hmm.
But I honestly, Ninja Turtles, it's another one of those things that I don't think there is an angle that you do that draws in some new fan base. Like,
no,
it's one of those things that if you love Ninja Turtles, then you're gonna want to go see it. But I don't know what the hook is that brings in other people. Like I think people were curious enough about the first one in 2014.
Yeah.
Because of the way it looked. We hadn't seen a Ninja Turtles movie, like a live action Ninja Turtles movie, since the 1990s, basically.
Yeah, and I mean those were obviously rubber suits, and this was much more photorealistic and
Right.
real. But
once they saw that, they didn't want to go back and see. They didn't need to go back and see more of it 2 years later.
yeah,
Even if the reviews for the sequel were better, they were like, "Yeah, we already saw that though, so what do we need to go see another one?"
yeah. I mean, there wasn't really. I liked it a lot. I thought it was fun, but I just don't see the pull to it. I don't think kids today are going out in droves to get the Ninja Turtles toys like before. I know they have plenty of shows that are on at any given time, and the toys are in Target, but I don't see it being a big draw anymore.
No,
unfortunately. So, and the other thing we had was there's been some controversy around Don't Breathe too.
A little bit. And, I'm a little bit upset that they're not going to be screening that. It's only screening in LA and New York.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to be screening that. But a little bit of controversy. It's not a ton. But they put out the Red Band trailer for it this week.
Yep.
And it kind of stirred it back up again. Basically, it has to do with the Stephen Lane character, the blind man.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of being, not kind of, but being positioned as the hero of this movie. Because he's not a good guy.
Yeah, I mean he's a murderer.
Terrible guy.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the revelation was about him in the first movie that was like really horrible. I can't remember. It was something that he had done in the past. But basically, the guy.
Yeah.
In the first movie, he was very clearly the villain. As although my opinion of the first movie was that by the end of the movie, I was rooting for him.
Yeah, because I mean they did break into his house.
Even though they broke into his house, yeah, true. But so he was still positioned as the bad guy. Mm-hmm. But by the end of it, because I thought they were awful too, I ended up rooting for him. And
yeah.
This blind man. In this movie, he is very clearly the hero, and because of all the terrible things he's done, a few people are upset that he's being positioned as the hero.
Yeah, I mean, I see the point, but that's always been the case, right? I mean, the people we make heroes out of is ridiculous, but yeah, I just don't see why it's a big to do.
Yeah, I don't think it's a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
But it is something that I've been reading a little bit of on Twitter and stuff like that, and a little bit of some reactions to it from people who are just kind of like, "Where's he a good guy? He's a killer. He's a murderer." I mean, these people probably root for the Punisher.
And they probably just watched the Suicide Squad, and we're like, "Yay, Suicide Squad!" These are all assassins and villains too.
They're all killers in that movie.
Yeah.
They're probably like I said, they probably all watched the Punisher and were very happy to watch.
Right. Exactly.
So, I don't know.
Are you excited for? I think we only got a couple things left, but are you excited for What If? Marvel's What If series starts next Wednesday with Captain Britain episode, Peggy Carter getting the super soldier serum. I know we talked briefly about it, but are you where's that on your exciting scale?
I'm pretty excited mainly because we know that even though each episode is standalone, that it's basically going to have some sort of impact on the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me very interested. I got a few screeners of it, so I need to watch them. In fact, I'm going to try to watch them today. The first 3 episodes.
I just don't see how it can have an impact because it's all basically
Why?
it's what ifs.
It's all multiverse.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess after Loki, they could actually affect things. But I mean, the whole idea of being what if, it's like this didn't happen, but what if it did? You know?
I mean, they're what ifs, but they're what ifs taking place in alternate realities. I mean, and
Yeah.
characters from other realities cross over into the main 616 all the time. The rumor is that Haley Atwell's Captain Carter, which is Peggy Carter if she took the super soldier serum,
Hmm.
is going to show up in Doctor Strange too. Which,
That would be cool.
I mean, look, anything that gets Haley Atwell back on the big screen in the MCU, I'm down.
I'm behind it. Yeah.
Me too, because I fucking love Haley Atwell.
I wonder if there's any pressure on, because you got the Flash, Spider-Man's supposed to have a lot of crossover. Doctor Strange has the multiverse of madness, obviously. I wonder if there's any competition behind the scenes of these films when they're making them to kind of outdo the other two.
I'm sure. If there wasn't intentionally, I'm sure there is unofficially.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So,
you probably have a pretty good idea who's going to do it better, right?
who do you think?
Marvel's going to do it better. I mean, because as far as
Yeah.
the only thing DC is doing in terms of like multiverse is the Flash. So
Yeah. Oh, who's going to do the multiverse better? I thought, because I'm kind of anxiously awaiting to see how it seems like they're throwing too much at the wall, but at the same time you're bringing back the '89 Keaton Batman, you're bringing all this stuff into play. When Crisis on Infinite Earths came on the CW shows, they were able to pull it off in a really cool way to keep, show you everybody from like Lucifer showed up to the Smallville guys, in just very small ways. I think a lot of people are going to be very disappointed because they're going to expect us to be these roles to be more than cameos, and they're most likely none of them are going to be. If we do see Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 4, it's going to be a 2-minute cameo at most. But it's probably not going to be the full thing. So it'll be interesting to see for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm still curious about what they're doing with that Spider-Man No Way Home thing.
Yeah.
I don't know whether to believe that they're really not in it or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I still have this feeling that we're going to see the Sony and Marvel worlds officially collide in that movie.
That would be cool. I mean, we've got the confirmation about Alfred Molina, so we know those movies are stuck together. It'd almost be weird or silly to not pull in the Spider-Man of those eras, but
Anthony Fox too, he's in there too.
Yep.
But then again, just because they're playing the same characters doesn't mean they're playing the same characters from that same timeline.
Yeah.
Because Jamie Foxx's Electro ain't blue in this one.
That's true.
So,
And, it could be from that, but even that, it would stand to reason that, well, I guess the Peter Parkers would be different in each one. I don't know. Whatever they do, it's going to be interesting to see.
I mean, we had the whole thing with the Morbius movie where we see Michael Keaton's character from Spider-Man in there. Remember?
Yeah, the Vulture.
Yeah, Vulture is in there. So there's obviously some bleeding over going on here already.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know. We don't know to what extent. I mean, we always have to remember that those Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland are Sony co-produced movies. Like, Sony lent the character over to Marvel, so Sony still has influence over them.
Yeah, I always forget that, to be honest with you.
It's easy to forget.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a very interesting time for some of these movies. Let's put it that way. It's very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So in next week we have the aforementioned Don't Breathe 2, and then a movie that I was actually surprised. You can catch Travis's review right now at punchdrunkcritics.com, but I was surprised to see your reaction. I wasn't sure what to think of Fall Guy.
Free Guy?
Free Guy, sorry. Yeah, Free Guy.
Fall Guy is a very different thing.
Fall Guy's a different movie. Free Guy, the Ryan Reynolds led.
Fall Guys is the video game also, remember Fall Guys with the characters that kind of run around and...
Oh, I was thinking of the 70s TV show, The Fall Guy.
Yeah,
That's totally different, yeah. So Free Guy, I should say, is coming out next week, and you can check out Travis's review right now at punchdrunkcritics.com. A very positive review, which I was surprised. I mean, obviously Ryan Reynolds is always fun to watch, but I wasn't sure what to make of the movie itself, and it sounds like it ends up being pretty damn good.
It's really great. I started off my review by saying, is it too early to call it the best video game movie ever? I think it might be. It's really fun. So yeah, and it's surprisingly deep in a Truman Show slash Stranger Within Fiction sort of way, which is I think really nice. So
Yeah.
a little
Well,
bit of a ride
now
along.
I'm all in. And that's going to be a theater only film, right?
Yeah, I believe it's in theaters only.
So that'll be one of the first really big theater only films that we've had come up in a while. So make sure to check out www.punchdrunkcritics.com
Really
right
fun,
now. And
really
was
fun
it?
cameos in Free Guy that remind you that oh yeah, this was a Fox movie at first, and oh yeah, Fox is owned by Disney now. Some really fun cameos. Let's put it that way.
Awesome. PunchdrunkCritics.com is the website. You can check out the review for that and everything else, as well as all of our interviews, news, trailers, pictures, everything. All that stuff is right there at PunchdrunkCritics.com. Make sure to like and subscribe our YouTube channel if you're listening to this on, or watching this on YouTube, I should say. If you're listening on podcast form, follow us there as well. We can always love reviews from you guys. If you can drop a review or two, it helps us out more than you know. On Twitter to get updates about what we're posting, so you don't have to actually check every 5 seconds. Twitter is at PDC Movies for the site, at Punchy Critic for Travis, and I am at PunchDrunkJohn. Twitch, Travis is at cinematic_enforcer. And if you guys have any tips, questions, anything you wanted to check in with us at all, info@punchdrunkcritics.com is the email address. Till next week when we have Don't Breathe 2 and Free Guy, I'm John.
I'm Travis.
We're out of here.
Later.
Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.